To all of our friends, a short time ago we attended an Act for America event in Stuart, Florida, and heard the organization founder, Brigitte Gabriel, speak to over 600 people. We found her to be an excellent speaker, but her words and the goals of her organization is what we found extraordinary and very much to the point in today's world environment. Please take the time to view this video and determine for yourself that it is not politically skewed and that the organization seems to have only one important purpose, the awakening of our country to the possibility of being consumed by forces of radical Islam.
A guest on some of the major network stations to discuss the influence of radical Islam and its advance across the world. And so it's our privilege to welcome to the Treasure Coast, Brigitte Gabriel. Give her a big hand.
Tonight. Boy, I guess we've got a long thing here in the middle, so some of you are not going to see me much. I'm going to try to move. I am honored and delighted that you would take the time to come here tonight to hear me speak. I want to give a special thanks to the pastor for hosting us tonight. Thank you so much, and the church also for inviting us to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. What's your first name again, Andy?
And now the story of a Lebanese woman with a surprising take on the crisis. Brigitte Gabriel was born in Lebanon, now an American citizen. She is an author and activist who is harshly critical of Islamic fundamentalism. Gabriel is the author of the soon-to-be-published book, Because They Hate, a survivor of Islamic terror warns America. She joins us from Washington right now. Good to have you with us, Ms. Gabriel.
Thank you, Miles. I'm delighted to be with you.
You wrote it's posted on your website. It's AmericanCongressForTruth.org. You wrote a message to Israel. I want to share some of this with people so they can get an idea of what you're talking about here. You say this: "Thank you, Israel. We urge you to hit them hard," referring, of course, to Hezbollah, "and destroy their terror infrastructure." It is not only Israel who is fed up with this situation, but the majority of silent Lebanese in Lebanon who are fed up with Hezbollah and are powerless to do anything out of fear of terror retaliation. When you write that with some degree of risk to yourself personally, don't you?
Absolutely. I receive death threats, but this is the time when people need to muster courage to stand up in the face of evil and a hate ideology that now is not only affecting Lebanon and Israel, but this cancer of hatred has spread throughout the world. Even the New York Times last month was talking about cells of Hezbollah in New York City ready to unleash suicide bombings in America. This has to stop.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thank you for watching us tonight. We'll have the latest on that very weird Hillary Clinton hostage situation in a moment. But first, containing dangerous Muslims. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Americans are basically divided over how to deal with Muslim-generated terror. The left sees it as a police-type deal. The right is out-and-out war. Talking Points believes the threat from fanatical Muslims is now at an all-time high, and the world is at great risk. It is far beyond a police action. Now, all over the world, extreme Muslims believe they're allowed to kill people with whom they disagree. They even kill each other. Thousands of people are dying, and the world's response is largely silence. Remember, the Sudanese government is allowing killers to slaughter hundreds of thousands of civilians in Darfur. As China blocks action in the UN, the world just stands by and watches. There is no question that Muslim killers are a threat to the entire world. Iran is funding and arming Hezbollah, which may start a war in Lebanon any time. Pakistan is allowing the Taliban sanctuary so it can kill Afghans and Americans at will. And Al-Qaeda is actively seeking ways to kill just about everybody. With Pakistan already having nukes and Iran on the way to getting them, you'd have to be a complete moron not to understand the danger here. Americans need to wise up, stop the nonsense, and convey a sense of urgency to Washington. We need to once again unite and come up with smart, realistic plans to engage the Muslim killers wherever they may be. In the Unresolved Problem segment tonight, as we told you in the Talking Points memo, some Muslim extremists in the Sudan want to execute a British teacher who allowed second graders to name a teddy bear Mohammed. Joining us now from St. Louis, Eric Vickers, a spokesman for the American Muslim Council, and from San Diego, Brigitte Gabriel, the author of the book Because They Hate, a Survivor of Islamic Terror Warns America. Now, you heard my Talking Points memo, Ms. Gabriel. Am I making any mistakes here?
You're not making any mistakes, Bill, and you are hitting the nail on the head. We are facing the rise of Islamo-Nazism rising all around the world. We are heading straight into a wall with the clash between Western civilization and a 7th century ideology driven by hate. And unless the West rises up today and world leaders come together and come with a solution to this problem, the world is heading into a disaster.
Bill, I think that you have made the classic mistake of stereotyping an entire group of people because of the extreme acts of a few.
But here's where you're wrong. The actions of a few, and look, with 1.2 billion Muslims all over the world, you're right. Most Muslims aren't killing people. But those who are, sir, are killing hundreds of thousands of people. You see, a small percentage of 1.2 billion can do grave damage, and they're doing it. They're doing it. And nobody's stopping them from doing it, sir. That's my point.
Well, Bill, my point is that that being the case, that's a statement about them, not a statement about Islam or about Muslims. And what you are doing and what your other guest is doing is saying that their actions should cause us to feel threatened by all Muslims. Well, and that's just patently ridiculous.
I very clearly said extreme Muslims. I said it 7 times. You know, yes, most Germans weren't Nazis, yet Nazism challenged the world, threatened the world. But most Germans weren't members of that party and didn't go in to subscribe to kill people, innocent people. You, sir, what you're doing is you're rationalizing, and you're not seeing the danger because you're emotionally involved.
I want to tell you a little story. This is a story that I saw in the paper this week that was not really well reported in the media. I thought it was fascinating. There is a man in Orchard Park. It's a suburb of Buffalo. His name is Muzammil Hassan, and he cut his wife's head off with a giant sword. Oh, you saw this story?
No, I heard about it.
Yeah, a giant scimitar.
Yeah.
And, you know, this guy was a Pakistani-American living in Orchard Park for 25 years, started a TV station. He ran a TV station specifically to highlight how Muslims are being misconstrued in the public eye.
Yeah.
And then he cut his wife's head off with a giant sword. So I wanted this lady to come on to comment on this. I've read about her many times. She is the founder of Acts for America and author of They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam and How We Can Do It. Please welcome Brigitte Gabriel.
Thank you.
Brigitte, how you doing?
Doing great, Bill. Glad to be with you.
Now, this scares people because they think, oh, here's a guy living in America for 25 years. He's assimilated. We can trust him. And then he takes the giant sword off the wall and cuts his wife's head off.
That's right.
Right, yeah. Well,
and then he is touted as the exemplary moderate Muslim who actually started Bridges TV, which is an Islamic television to clean up the image of Islam. And what does he do? He beheads his wife, calls the police bragging about how he cut her head off, and then the police shows up and there is the lady floor in the TV station which they founded together, and her head is next to her body. And this guy did it in the name of honor. This is what we call a moderate Muslim businessman in the United States. It's frightening.
Well, say what you really think, but
you can't even make this stuff up.
I know. He was this is. But let me ask you the other question that needs to be asked, which is, come on. There are red-blooded white Americans who strangle their wives, and O.J. killed his wife, you know, with a knife. It wasn't a giant sword, but, you know, I mean, what about the argument that this is just bigotry toward the Muslims to extrapolate all this from this incident?
No, it's very different, and I have to make it very clear that I do come from the Middle East. I'm an Arabic woman from Lebanon, and this is strictly an Islamic practice. And here's the difference. When Westerners in the West kill their wife, they usually kill their wife and run away. They try to hide the problem. They try to lie. They try to hide the evidence. They do not call the police and brag about how they killed her. You know, there's a major difference there.
But it...
To know. And our American Islamic community needs to be challenged to turn the terrorists within it, and needs to be more active and voice their opinion more, like Kamal Nawash, like the few people that I know who are speaking out. Those voices need to come forward, and they are already forward. We just need the rest of the Islamic community to stand behind them against those who are wishing to do us harm. Yes?
Hi, my name is Ernie Rosenberg, but my affiliation is, I'm here in my own private capacity. Two things. One is that even with the minimal things that we've done, the ineffective and inadequate things we've done, in Europe, the U.S. and Israel are considered more of a threat to peace than the Islamists.
Right.
And if we were to pursue a course like yours, how do we avoid being completely isolated? That's the first question. The second one is, I keep hearing about the overwhelming majority of peaceful Muslims, and my question is, where's the evidence that they exist?
What a great question. Thank you so much. I love the way you put that answer in your question. If they exist, this is a call to all Muslims living in the United States. If those of you moderates exist, and I'm talking directly to the camera, we want to see you in the millions on the streets of America demonstrating, sending a very clear message to the radical barbarians that live in the third world countries in the Middle East to condemn the barbaric acts that have been done in the name of Islam, your religion that supposedly has been hijacked. Because in our beliefs, if something of ours has been stolen or hijacked, we would scream to high heaven that it has been stolen. And we need to hear your voices if you're really upset that your religion has been stolen. Thank you. Oh, the U.S. and Israel. Yes, thank you. The U.S. and Israel are considered the great Satan. And many people do not realize. Let me tell you, America is the great Satan. Israel is just the little Satan tagging along with America. Keep that in mind. Whatever happens to Israel happens to us. There's a saying in Arabic, أولا يأتي السبت وبعده الأحد. First comes Saturday, then comes Sunday. First we kill the Jews, then we come to the Christians. You ask anyone in the Middle East that saying, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. The Muslims have been raised with it. We, the Christians, have been raised with it. So, do we care about what Europe thinks? Europe right now is Eurabia. It is no longer Europe. Europe that we now used to be Europe has died, or it's on its dying bed. You walk down the streets of the Champs-Élysées in Paris, and what do you see? Women in hijab and in burqa. You see more men dressed in turbans than dressed in a Christian Dior attire and couture. You walk in London, I mean, unbelievable. In Denmark, in the year 2000, before 2001, the mullahs in Denmark were declaring from their mosques that by the year 2050, they will declare Denmark an Islamic state. That was 2000, before the big cartoon brouhaha. We were not paying attention, and we better start paying attention. And people need to pay attention to people who are like me, who came to this country, who escaped Islamic persecution, who are speaking up and saying, wake up America, wake up the West. We're going to be the next Eurabia unless we act now and defend our civilization.
Coming to your backyard. Joining me now to help break down last night's debate is the president for ActForAmerica.org, Brigitte Gabriel. Brigitte, I hope you saw it in full. So, and I know you're very well aware of who this so-called imam is, the one I call the mean, sick, miserable, evil SOB, but which I believe he is. Your reaction?
He is, and I congratulate you on that interview yesterday. I watched it in full. Here's a perfect example of someone born in Britain as a British citizen in a Muslim family, went to British schools, raised in Britain, went to college, became an attorney in Britain. Now, how can someone like him become so radicalized to the point where he loathes the West? I mean, here's somebody who was exposed to our Judeo-Christian value system, our way of life, our democracy, and he despises it. This is the problem that we are facing all over the West right now. And you tried to nail him on talking about the innocents. I mean, these people that died on September 11th, they were innocent people, and he couldn't bring himself to say that, and here's why. He considers them all criminals because Americans, infidels, who are not Muslims, who pay money, taxes to the United States government, who funds the wars against Muslims, they are not innocent, they deserve to die. And this is how people in the Muslim world look at that as non-Muslims.
Let me point. He does, and we got him to admit he supports 9/11, supports what happened on 9/11, supports Osama bin Laden, supports Sharia, supports jihad, and wants the Muslim rule all over, Sharia rule all over the globe. Now, I asked him about the Muslim Brotherhood. The one point of agreement, and I don't think the rest of the world is recognizing this, is that the Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic radicals, want to take over Egypt and Yemen and Jordan and the Middle East and Israel and the United States. Here's part of that exchange. Let me give you, for example, the Muslim Brotherhood's motto, which is their motto today: Allah is our objective, the Prophet is our leader, the Quran is our law, jihad is our way, and dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. Allahu Akbar. Do you agree with that motto?
Yes, I mean, which Muslim would not agree with that? We do believe as Muslims that sovereignty and supremacy belongs to God. In fact, in the world today, there are two camps. One which believes that sovereignty belongs to man, at the head of which, you know, is at the moment probably Barack Obama, and the other one which believes that sovereignty belongs to Allah, to God. And at the head of that, whether we like it or not, is Sheikh Osama bin Laden.
One of the more revealing moments, Brigitte, because and I think people around the world, Great Britain, France, Belgium, and even in the United States, are having a hard time coming to a grip with what radical Islamists believe. And the question is, how many of them agree with them? I think the numbers are too great that we must contend with this radical view.
The numbers are too great, and they are basically following what the Quran said. Prophet Muhammad divided the world into two camps: Dar al-Harb, the house of war, and Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam. Dar al-Harb is the house where non-Muslims or land that has not been conquered by Islam yet is called. And that's what he is referring to. And this is exactly what the Muslim Brotherhood tried to preach all over the world. You know, in their plan, which you and I discussed on your radio program yesterday, they wrote a plan, a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West. In the counterterrorism circles, this plan became known as the Project. Now, they wrote the Project in 1982. Since 1982, we have seen the radicalization after the implementation of the plan in Europe. They're trying to do the same thing now in the United States. They wrote the plan for the United States in 1991 and began implementing it here. What we are seeing is radicalism starting at university campuses by the Muslim student associations. It started in Britain, like he was radicalized. It's starting right now in the United States as well.
The frightening thing, and I was bringing this up with Juan Williams, now our own White House is re-examining their relationship with this radical group, the Muslim Brotherhood. All right, I asked him about, just to show how radical, the idea that people would strap bombs on themselves or hijack airplanes or, you know, think that their children are martyrs if their children strap bombs on themselves and kill innocent men, women, and children. I had a very hard time getting an answer out of him. He deflects. He tries to monopolize time and turn the questions on me. I was prepared. I had read every interview that he'd ever done. But I just want to show you this exchange because I think it reveals a lot. We hear a lot about suicide bombers, and we hear a lot about when they kill innocent men, women, and children in the name of Allah as part of jihad, that they get 72 virgins when they kill innocent people and go to heaven. Do you believe that, sir?
That's complete nonsense. Nobody kills innocent men, women, and children, apart from organizations like Blackwater and the ISI.
So everyone who's been murdered in the name of jihad and their holy war, the infidels, he does believe this. This is what's frightening. If this is not fanaticism, you know, on a scale like fascism and Nazism, I don't know what is.
This is pure Islamic fanaticism, and this did not start with Blackwater, and this did not start with the CIA. Under the banner of Islam, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. There is no God greater than Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Muslims murdered Christians in Egypt, Copts in Egypt, Christians in Lebanon, Armenians in Turkey, Hindus in India, Jews in Arab land. All this happened before they ever turned their eyes to the United States, before we ever went into Iraq or Kuwait or anywhere else. This is Islamic radicalism awakening worldwide, driven by the Muslim Brotherhood to bring back the Islamic Caliphate or the empire and put the world under Islamic Sharia law. Their true colors are shining, and it's time for the world to wake up, especially for us here in the United States, Sean, and learn a lesson of what's happening in Europe and what's coming to the United States.
Well, I would think the White House may want to reconsider their re-examination of the relationship with the Muslim Brotherhood. This is sick, miserable, and evil. And he is. And I hope people can wake up to the fact that what's really going on here. Brigitte, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you again for taking the time to watch this video, but please, for your own further knowledge on the subject, visit the website of Act for America. That's www.actforamerica.org, and Google videos of Brigitte Gabriel. Thank you again for watching.